Geordies, welcome back to another episode of Finding Fabian Schar's Replacement. See the guys in black there, Antonio Silva, Nathan Collins, etc. I've already done all of those on the first two episodes, so if you want to go and check them out, I will link it at the end of this video. But today we're going to be concentrating on the four guys in red, Zabarnyi, Matsima, Dean Huijsen and Marc Guéhi. But there's one thing I want to do before we get started, because I think you'll be interested in this, and I wanted to look at the players that are coming out of contract in 2026, and there's some absolute gems and some bargains to be had. We talk about spending, we haven't got the money to spend because of PSR rules, but there's some absolute gems you can get for a bargain this summer. If not, wait until the contract runs out next summer. First two, we're not even going to be looking at. Lamine Yamal's not going to leave Barcelona. Estevo's going to Chelsea. But the next one, Franco Mastanduno, one of the most promising attack midfielders in the world right now. He is absolutely exceptional. And I do think Newcastle lacked a bit of spark, a bit of magic, a lot of creativity. And that's exactly what he brings. He's predominantly attack midfielder. He's still raw, but the quality is all there. And he's definitely got a big, bright future in European football. And then you've got Chrislain Matsima, who I analysed. And I think it was the first episode of these. And he's coming out with contract in 2026. So if we can put in a cheeky little bid this summer, we can get him for a bargain, because Valencia, with their money issues, will not want him going on a cheap. Then you've got Illia Zabarnyi, who's a right winger who came through the Barcelona academy, so he's been very well educated, and he's actually having an underrated season with Villarreal. Injured at the moment, but before his injury, he's absolutely thriving. He's one of those manipulative players who loves to dribble, loves to be dynamic, so he would fit our style. Now, Mario Storykins, he's more of an attack midfielder, but he's got similar qualities to Bruno Guimaraes, so I think he could be a perfect understudy to Bruno, and I've tweeted out about this before. And then Johan Bakayoko, we all know Newcastle United have been linked with him in the past, so he's another gem that we could possibly wait until next season, but we can get him for a cheap price this summer as well. Ryan Cherki, I would love Ryan Cherki at Newcastle United. We love a maverick. When you think of Ben Arthur, Ryan Cherki's got that maverick, that freestyling football about him, and he's a creative genius. I honestly think Isak would thrive with someone like Cherki in the team. Then we've got loads of players that we've been linked with in the past. Ismail Doucouré, who's one of the most versatile players you'll come across. Defensive midfielder, attack midfielder, centre-back, right-back, left-back. He's done it all. And then you've got James McAtee, who we've been linked with just recently. You've got Alvin Sanchez, who's having a terrific season in Switzerland. And then you've got Quinton Timber, who I think would be a good understudy to Joe Linton. Hartman, who was very, very close to joining Chelsea at one point. Then, oh look, Marc Guéhi. Then if we move it on, you've got Brian Mbeumo, who we've been linked with and everybody wants to sign. You've got Trincao, who we've recently been linked with. And then you've also got Wissa as well, who's on the next page, whose contract's coming out in 2026. So this is what I'm saying. To bolster your squad, you don't need to spend a lot of money. You just need good negotiation skills. So what you need to do is approach a club, say, we're interested in this player. Do you give us permission to speak to this player? They're not going to say no, because it's within their best interest that they get as much money as possible to do for these players instead of losing them out on a free. So they're not going to say no. And then you go to the player, you go to his agent, and you sell your project to them. So it's all about how we negotiate. So I just want to point out that there is absolute bargains to be had. So there's no reason why we cannot bolster our squad this summer. So let's get back to the show. And first up, we've got Illia Zabarnyi, who you all know very well. He's been excelling in Bournemouth this season. Came to St. James's Park and kept Alexander Isak quiet. 22 years old, born in 2002, stands at 6'2". He's made 160 senior appearances, missed 69 days, 7 games through injury, and his market value is around 40 million. He comes across as a modern-day defender, but in my opinion, his biggest strength is he's an excellent defender. He can look like a brick wall at times. I think he's very, very similar to Fabian Schar, in my opinion. Positional awareness, he's a great duel winner. He's capable in possession. He's comfortable in all defensive zones, and that's what I like about him. He's happy to engage and step out of defense and press opponents, but he's also happy being that sweeper defender, making clearances, making last-ditch tackles. One thing I do find as a weakness with him is his agility. He reminds us a little bit of Sven Botman. His turn circle can be limited at times. This is because he gets his angles all wrong at times. He's very capable with the ball at his feet, but he's not the greatest. I'm probably doing him a bit unjust there because it's Dean Huijsen that's been tasked with the responsibility of playing out from the back, more so than Zabarnyi. He's capable, but again, he's not a groundbreaker when he does so. So how does he compare to Fabian Schar? Well, as you can see, he's very much in the mould of Fabian Schar in possession. Doesn't get involved as much as just passing and recycling possession. When he does get the ball, it's very progressive. He's happy carrying the ball out from the back, and he's just as forward thinking as Fabian Schar. When it comes to defensively, you can see the amount of difference in his duel winning ability, but also his aerial ability. I think he's been terrific for Bournemouth this season, and he also brings that Premier League experience. My only worrying thing about going in for someone like Zabarnyi, Bournemouth are going to want a hefty fee because there's no doubt Dean Huijsen's going to leave this summer. Somebody's going to trigger that 50 million release clause. So will Bournemouth want to sell both centre-backs in the same summer? I'm not so sure. But one thing is for sure, in my opinion, if you were to say we're definitely signing Zabarnyi this summer, I would be more than happy because I'm comfortable with him in our backline. Because you can see from those statistics alone, he suits how Newcastle United play. Newcastle play quite similar to Bournemouth. We're both direct. We're both excellent in transition moments. Both want to move the ball quickly up the field as quick as possible. So it's perfect for a Newcastle United system, in my opinion. But it's not all about my opinion. I want to hear your opinion. Make sure you drop us a comment in the below with your thoughts on Zabarnyi. Then we'll move on to another potential target. And this guy with a lot of potential, should I say. He stands at 6'4", and it's Chrislain Matsima, who's currently at Augsburg on loan from Monaco. He stands at a colossal 6'4". He's made 87 senior appearances, missed 19 days and 4 games through injury, but his market value is only 7 million. This could be a low risk, high reward type of signing. What are his strengths? Well, he excels in reading of the game. He makes many crucial blocks, interceptions, and clearances. He's an excellent box defender. When he defends, it's a lot more calculated than physical. He's not really an aggressive defender. He normally likes to engage with people using his arms, getting tight. It's not bulldozing opponents out the way. So in my opinion, when it comes to weaknesses, he does need to add a little bit more aggression to his game, but he also needs to add some composure in and out of possession. And his agility, he's got very, very good recovery pace, but his acceleration isn't great and his change of direction isn't great. Once he's able to gather momentum, that's when you really see his speed and his power and his explosiveness. But when it comes to changing direction and quick, sharp turns, he's quite slow and sluggish. That's my only worry about him, because against better people in the Premier League, he's one-on-one defending. They're too quick. With a quicker speed of thought, they'll just nip around him very easily. So he needs to be a lot more calculated and composed in the way he defends. But when it comes to profile-wise, 6'4", he's athletic. He's got excellent sprint speed. Once he gathers momentum, it's all there. It's just trying to educate him into how to use his attributes a lot better. But when it comes to strengthening the backline, he's absolutely got it. He's definitely improved Augsburg's defense this season. They've only conceded 35 goals in the Bundesliga this season, which is a lot less than the majority of teams. So how does he compare to Fabian Schar? Well, you can see one standout attribute. He's exceptional in the air. Very rarely loses an aerial duel. When it comes to defensive actions, I mentioned he doesn't like to tackle as much, and it's all about interceptions, clearances, and blocks. That's why his defensive actions are high, but his win percentage is low, because when he doesn't duel very much. Quite similar to Fabian Schar, actually, but a bigger increase on his all-round defensive skill set. When it comes to in possession, look, I mentioned he's not as composed in possession. He doesn't carry the ball much. He's not progressive in his play, but he's very forward thinking. Augsburg are a team that want to play. They want to play through the lines, and that's exactly what the statistics show. They don't progress the team through passes. They try and what we call diagonal pass, where you play between the lines, and that's exactly what Augsburg want to do this season. So if I was to give my humble, honest opinion, I'm not sure if he's ready for the Premier League just yet, but I think in 2 or 3 years' time, he absolutely could be. So I think with a signing like this, it all depends on how much we're going to get out of Fabian Schar next season. I don't want Fabian Schar to leave. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just looking for a suitable replacement, because I think he's only got 1 or 2 years left in him. So if he can bring in somebody like a Matsima, have him playing as an understudy, maybe playing in cup games, a couple of European games, whichever competition we'll find ourselves in, then it could work. But if he's to come in and be relied on, I'm not sure if he's ready for that just yet, in my opinion. Then we'll move on to Dean Huijsen, the man of the moment, the man that's coming to the Premier League and just wowed everybody. If you were to define a modern day centre-back, you would just write Dean Huijsen. He plays for Bournemouth, 19 years old, born in 2005, which is crazy. It makes me feel old. He stands at a colossal 6'6", but as you know, he's very lean. He doesn't have that width, that broadness about him. He's made 42 senior appearances. He played, I think, once for Juventus, then he was at Roma, now obviously Bournemouth. He's missed 21 days, 7 games through injury, and his release clause is 50 million. So what will he bring? Premier League experience. He thrives with the ball at his feet. He moves like a midfielder. It's absolutely extraordinary, and his complete two-footedness is a massive asset to any team because that means he's got an expansive passing range and he can open up any single angle and pass the ball and switch the play, if you like. We've seen it happen for Spain last night where his vision from deep is absolutely exceptional for a defender. He played Lamine Yamal in. Not many defenders see that pass, but he does. His positional awareness, he's like a vacuum, that I like to call him. He's a vacuum machine. He excels in sniffing out danger, in stopping defensive transitions. He's got excellent aerial ability, cognitive and physical speed. He's perfect for a high-pressing, quick transitional team like Newcastle. And I mentioned the similarities between Newcastle and Bournemouth. So if he's thriving at Bournemouth, he would absolutely thrive at Newcastle United. If you're a team that wants to play out from the back, you want Dean Huijsen. I can't commend his ball-playing ability. You just don't expect it from a centre-back. He moves like a midfielder. He's got agility. He's got brilliant ball control. He can glide past players on the inside and outside. He's just an exceptional ball carrier and distributor. But when it comes to weaknesses, sometimes his decision making is still very raw. He can get caught flat-footed in one-on-one situations. So if I'm Eddie Howe and I'm a coach and I do bring in Dean Huijsen, I'd be looking at how to angle his body better in one-on-one situations. And I think if he improves that, he's really elite. So how does he compare to Fabian Schar? Well, as you can see, he's thriving in all departments, but the clear standouts to me is his ball carrying and his progressive passes. He's sitting in the 92 percentile for ball carrying and the 84 percentile for progressive passes. That is absolutely phenomenal for a kid that's 19 years old. When it comes to defensive actions, he gets involved a lot. But again, he's that type of player that doesn't mind stepping up and engaging, but he also doesn't mind being that sweeper. So he comes with a bit of versatility. He wins a lot of aerial duels. He wins a lot of tackling duels. He's just an excellent all-round intelligent footballer. I made a scout report on him when he first came to the Premier League, and I said the biggest concern about him, he's got all the attributes, is his physicality, but it seems like he's beginning to outsmart the attackers rather than outduel them, in my opinion. He's just such an intelligent footballer. He understands the game. Now, a body like this is going to be difficult to bring in because he's got that 50 million release clause. And if we do go in for him, I don't think we're going to be the only club. So in my opinion, I think he's going to stay in the Premier League, but I think it depends on who gets Champions League football. But in my opinion, I think you've been an excellent addition to Newcastle United. Then we've got Marc Guéhi. Where do we start with this guy? Because in my opinion, this hits a little nerve because he's already messed us about and rejected us once. So out of principle, I probably wouldn't want to sign him, but I understand that Eddie Howe likes him. He comes with that Premier League experience, played for England at an international level, and he's thrived at it for England. So yes, he's a good defender. That's not what I'm saying. But for me personally, I just feel a little bit hard done by him. But let's talk about him anyways. But he's 24 at the moment. He stands at 6 foot. He's made 206 senior appearances, missed 100 days and 16 games through injury. And his market value is about 45 million. Although we bidded 60 million, it was rejected and they wanted 70. I think that's too much for a player of his caliber. There's better for less out there. Now, one thing I will say is his contract runs out next summer, so it's going to be around the 45 million mark if he is to leave this summer. So what does he bring? He's rooted in diligence, anticipation, and he brings a lot of composure, calmness, and precision to the backline. He's got a combination of channeled aggression, but also football intelligence. What I like about him, he's impeccable concentration and his spatial awareness. What I've seen from him differently this season, he's a lot more progressive. Last season, it was Joachim Andersen that was tasked with playing out from the back, but he's had to take on that responsibility this season, and he's beginning to get a lot better in his progressive play than he was last season. And he's able to play right centre-back, left centre-back, in a back three, in a back back four. He's comfortable in all roles and systems. And when it comes to defending, he's a player that likes to get touch tight, use his arms. He's not a bulldozing defender. He likes to grapple them and kind of maneuver the opposition off the ball, but he's also got great recovery pace when needed. His weaknesses, he struggles a little bit in the air. He misjudges the time and the flight of the ball, in my opinion. And another weakness I've found with him, his failure to track runners, especially when they're coming from deep. Now, when my biggest concern about Marc Guéhi is he's so conservative with his passing and his distribution. There's so many times that Palace could have broke quickly, but he takes the safer options instead of being riskier. At a club like Newcastle United, we want to thrive in transition moments. We want a counter-attack aggressively with intensity. So you would have to up that. You would have to accept taking more risks with his passing. So how does he compare to Fabian Schar? Well, as you can see, his game's all about passing rather than ball carrying. He's just as progressive as Fabian Schar, but when it comes to defensively, he's a lot better than Fabian Schar. He's winning more of his duels. He's getting involved in more duels, and he's winning more of his aerial duels than Fabian Schar. The thing is, Marc Guéhi's clearly a great player and he can clearly play in the Premier League. But for me, when it was at 40, 50 million, I was kind of thinking, yeah, okay, I can accept that. 40, 50 million for Marc Guéhi's Premier League experience, 24 years old, so he can be at the club for a numerous amount of years. But when it hit the 60, 70 million, I started to think, am I going crazy or is that overpriced? And that's how I feel. I feel like it depends how much you're going to be bringing them in for. If it's 35 to 40 million, okay, that's a pretty good deal. But when it reaches the 60 million and 70 million mark, I kind of feel like he's overpriced in my humble opinion. But it's not all about me. I want to hear your opinion. Would you still take Marc Guéhi at our club, or would you look elsewhere? But I wanted to also compare them all together. And this is how they stand all together. So as you can see the age difference. Fabian Schar's 33, coming on 34. Like I mentioned earlier, he's probably only got a year left in him. So when it comes to passes and getting involved in the build-up and being happy receiving the ball, Fabian Schar stands above them all. So we're actually playing out from the back more than Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Augsburg. Forward passes, Fabian Schar doesn't really play more forward passes. So when it comes to forward passes, it's all about Dean Huijsen. Dean Huijsen's probably going to crumble everybody in the passing department, in my opinion, because even the progressive passes, it's all about Dean Huijsen. He's reaching above 84% now. That's extraordinary. Defensive actions, Dean Huijsen standing above everybody again, but Matsima's very, very close to him. Defensive actions, duels won, which in my opinion is the better rounded figure that you should be looking at. Dean Huijsen, he's getting involved in 88% defensive actions and winning 84% of them. That's extraordinary. But as you can see, Zabarnyi's a monster in duels as well. When it comes to aerial duels, Matsima, 6'4", he's winning 97% of his aerial duels, which is phenomenal. Then when it comes to progressive carries, which I kind of like in a centre-back these days, Dean Huijsen, so comfortable with the ball at his feet. But again, Zabarnyi, 78%, he's very confident bringing out the ball from the back, because the reason you do that is because you want to pack their players. What I mean by packing their players is eliminating their players out of the game. So you can bait in that press and then you'll be able to move the ball around them. That's exactly what centre-backs need to do in this day and age. So look, all these players can bring a lot in Newcastle United, still with a bit of work to do because they're all incredibly raw. But these are the types of players that we should be looking at, in my opinion. But it's not all about my opinion. I want to hear your opinion. And out of all of those players that we've looked at, who's your favourite? Who's that one player you would look at that list and say, I want him? I want to hear your comments in the below. Let me know who you would sign out of that list. And I'm probably going to start a right winger series, as well as Joe Linton replacement, because he's getting a bit. And we do need depth in midfield, in my opinion. So I'm going to be doing a right winger, but also midfielder series just like this one. So if you've got any recommendations, drop them in the comments below. But until next time, I want to appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and away the lads.